My name is Frederick Paul Lucky, and I'm shooting this video because I need some help, some legal help, and I got sentenced for 3 rape, 3 robberies, 3 kidnaps, and 2 felonious assaults in 1979. I was found guilty and sentenced to 32 to 130 years. And I didn't know nothing about no legal work, no legal nothing. And when I got in prison, I studied the law, and I started working on my case. And I went in the appeal courts and got it knocked down to 16-65. But I was taught how to pen pal, and a lady friend, a lady pen pal of mine, she was coming to see me like every 3 months. And DNA came into play in 1989, and the DNA test was $5,000, and she supplied the first $5,000. And it went to a new DNA lab, and there's 2 DNA tests that she didn't know how to do, that they didn't know how to do. So I was corresponding with this lady at Cellmark Diagnostic DNA Center in Maryland, and she had me the FedEx, the last 50% of it, because all they could take was 50% of the slide. It was 2 black ladies and 1 white lady. The black lady was 52 years old. She worked at a hospital in the laundry, and she went to the hospital and got a DNA test done. And I got excluded by DNA testing by her. But the slide had to get sent to Maryland, to Cellmark Diagnostic DNA Lab. And the lady, when she got the DNA done and she found me innocent, she sent the first information to the plain dealer. She called my social worker and had me come to the phone, and she told me the date and time that they cleared me of the DNA test for the first black lady. Well, the second black lady, she was 27 years old. She never went to the hospital. She worked at a bank, and she went to the bank to her job and told her boss she got robbed, not raped, and called her husband. And her husband came and got her. And she told her boss she couldn't work today, she needed a day off. So she got picked up by her husband. They was driving down St. Clair, and they got to 105, and she seen the guy coming out of the McDonald's with a quarter beer and some McDonald's food, and she said, there he is, and he was going to jump out and jump on him. But she said, no, let's make a U-turn and get his license plate number. He had a 30-day tag, and they took it to 5th District, and the tag was stolen. So the white lady, she was raped on 152nd by a freeway. And she never went to the hospital, as you say. But when I got cleared by DNA testing, they brought me back to court. And the judge, he took that off my case. The other two women were still hanging on. So he sent me back to prison. And in 24 years, I went to the board, the parole board, and they gave me a parole and labeled me a sex offender. I didn't know they labeled me a sex offender, but I got out and I was staying on 147th and St. Clair. And they had a pole with 3 pictures on it. One of them was mine, and I didn't know it. I didn't even know I was labeled as a sex offender. But I got a call from my parole officer for me to come down there and report. And he told me I had to register. So I started registering. And then when I found out one of my pictures was on a pole, I moved on the west side on Detroit, on West 83rd. And then I was working at a beauty salon. I was working for this lady named Emily Matthews. And she used to pick me up on the corner. And I came out one morning, and there was 2 white guys with suits sitting by the walkway where I come out to walk up to the corner away from my ride. And he called my name, my full name, and he said, I got something to tell you. And he held the check up, and he said, well, the judge offering you a deal. You take this deal and let this case go. And I told him I'm not making no deals. He said, you're not making no? I said, no, I'm not making no deal. So they drove off. I got a letter to come back to court. When I got back to court, the judge asked me, was I going to make the deal? I didn't want to make the deal. I told him no. So he gave me 5 more years and told me to think about it and sent me back to prison. 2 weeks before the 5 years was up, the CO woke me up at 12 o'clock, told me to get dressed, took me to the quartermaster, gave me a sweatsuit, walked me up front, told me to get in that car up front. Came to the car, he gave the lady that was sitting in the driver's seat something. And instead of driving me to the Greyhound bus station, she drove me to a deserted area and a pole that said bus stop. She handed me an ID and $75 and told me that they told her that they effed up and get back to Cleveland the best way I could, and told me to get out of the car. So I got out, she drove off. So about 1:45, the bus came, and the bus driver asked me what was I doing with all my stuff. I told him I just got out of prison. He said, why did they take you to the Greyhound? I said, I don't know. So he said, come on, I'll take you. So he drove me to the Greyhound. I caught the Greyhound. I got back to Cleveland at 4:30 in the morning. I sat in the Greyhound bus station to 8 o'clock. I went downtown to my parole office. I told her I just got back out. She asked me what my name was, and I told her. And she said, oh, you ain't got to report no more. So she told me to go down to the sex offender department. So I went downstairs to the sex offender department, gave them my name. They said, oh, you ain't got to register no more, sign these papers. I left out. So I've been working on my case for the longest. I got a phone call, and when I answered the phone, it was Johnny Cochran. And he said, my name is Johnny Cochran, I'm calling because I'm interested in taking your case. And I said, I'm thinking somebody playing on my phone. So I said, yeah, well, I'm down on duck. So I hung up. So he called back. He said, you must then look at my area code. He said, look at my area code and call me back. So I was driving, so I pulled over. I looked at the area code and I said, man, this is California. So I dialed the number back. He answered the phone. He was kind of laughing. And I apologized to him and told him I apologize for my actions. It ain't every day that somebody gonna hear, you calling them. He said, yeah, I know that. He said, but I'm interested in taking your case. He said, how much legal work do you got? And I said, I got a lot of it. He said, can you take it to the post office? I said, Mr. Cochran, I don't have that kind of money to mail all my legal work to you. He said, don't worry about it. He said, just take the legal work to the mail office. And when you get up to the desk, call me. So when I got to the front of the desk, I told the lady that Mr. Cochran asked me to bring my legal work. She said, yeah. Right. I said, well, hold up. So I dialed his number. I said, Mr. Cochran, I'm at the desk. He said, get a phone to the person at the desk. So I gave the phone to her. And she listened to him. And then she gave me the phone back. He said, all right, I'll call you when I receive it. So I took my crates and put them in the back of her desk. And she said, well, you must got a good, interesting case. Because it ain't every day somebody get a call from him. She said, well, he gonna pay for everything, so don't worry about it. Oh, I said, could I get a copy of everything? She said, yeah. She gave me a copy of it. About a day and a half later, he called me. He said, man, I got all your legal work. He said, give me about 2 days, and I'm gonna get back with you. So 2 days later, he said, look, he said, man, you got a good case. I don't know why didn't nobody want to take your case. He said, when I get through, I'm going to come up there. He said, we going to beat this case. And you will never have to worry about nothing else in life. So about a month later, he was calling me, telling me about what he read. And then all of a sudden I heard on the radio that he had passed away. And he had all my legal work. So I called his wife and she told me to give her some time to go in his library because he had a lot of legal stuff in his library. And she mailed my legal work back to me, to my the beauty salon where I was working at. And I never had no help from nobody else since then. And I'm doing this video to ask for some help because I got a high profile case. And I had an investigator, I paid an investigator to investigate the white lady. And she had left her husband and left out of the state and went to Florida. So the investigator got to her husband and she told her that he gonna give her the girl's father's phone number and address. So she called her father and she went to her father's house. Said, yeah, I'm investigating. I got a client that was accused of rape and your daughter was accused. And we trying to get in touch with her. So he said, well, wait a minute, let me call her. So he tried to call, but she was at work. So he said, I'm gonna give me your phone number and I'm gonna call you tonight because she gonna call me as soon as she get off work. So that night she called And she said, Mr. Luckett never raped me or the black lady. She said, we was both paid to pick him out of the lineup, pick him out in the courtroom, and help send him to prison. She said, I'm the only one that took my money and left Ohio. She said, that's my past, I'm not coming back. And now she in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and she was staying in a trailer park, and she remarried. But I don't know where she's staying at now. She could be staying and still staying there, but she probably not in the trailer park no more. And the investigator she didn't know I was out. And it got on the news that they had let me out again. And the city of Cleveland put me in a program where they was paying my rent, light, and gas. And they put me in an apartment on 193rd. And she came over there and she told me if I want the evidence of the recording of the lady saying that her and the black lady, the young black lady, never got raped. They was both paid. She said, I gotta give her $4,000, and she kept the tape. She wouldn't give it to me, but I gave her $200 to do the interview. So she already had been paid. So she thought, since they let me out, that they gave me some money. But they did. And since then, I've been trying to find some help to get my case back in court. And I haven't been able to find that help. This is why I'm making this video to see if anybody interested in taking my case. At least Johnny Cochran, he was a well-known attorney. If we had stayed alive, I would have beat my case and got paid and been on, living my life. But right now I'm disabled, and I'm on SSI, and that's the only way I can survive. So if anybody that's in the legal system that can give me some help, I appreciate it.